this is the candidates forum for the Hidden Valley Lake Board of Directors election. The candidates will each come up in a random order that they chose by drawing lots just before the meeting. They will give their names, read an opening statement, and then they will answer 10 questions that we will pick out of those submitted by you. That's pretty much it. Each will have 3 minutes to give an opening statement, 1 minute for each question, and they should have a total, and then they will give a short closing statement. And that should be a total of 22 minutes for each candidate. And then afterwards, you'll have an opportunity to meet the candidates and socialize and ask them questions directly if you don't get a chance to do it. If your question doesn't get asked during this forum. Okay, well, I'm going to ask who is the first, who drew one? Well, Tim Bartis will be our first speaker.
Well, I'm Tim Bartis, and my wife, she's a little late, but she'll be here momentarily. That's Julie. But we've been in this community for about 2.5 years now, just over that. And we found a beautiful home up on Timber Point. We had been looking for like 2.5 years. And it was just by chance that a business partner of mine recommended me that I look at property up here. And I was like, really, Lake County? I'll pass on that. And then after a while, I got to thinking about it, and I said, why pass on it? Let's go up and take a good look at it. Forget about everything we've heard. And we came up to Hidden Valley Lake, and we were just very impressed with the property. But what we really were drawn to, besides our home, were the people that we ran into. Here in Hidden Valley Lake, there's a very strong community here in Hidden Valley Lake, and I think that is because of the people who inhabited this area. But the one thing that drove me into the desire to run for this position here with the Board of Directors was because of probably the same thing like a lot of you feel, is that this HOA needs a lot of help. It looks like it's an HOA that we've just lost its way a bit and just needs a bit more direction. And I mean, I can sit around and complain about it all the time. I mean, I hear complaints about this or complaints about that situation. But I figured unless I get up and at least offer my services, and as a board of directors, that's what I'm doing. I'm just offering to serve my constituents, my peers, the other residents of this community, the best way that I possibly can. And by doing so, it's my duty or anyone who's on this board, one of the main things we want to do is to try to protect the value of all of our properties up here. We all take it personal. So that is the driving point, is why I'm doing it. Since I've been doing this, actually, this campaign here, the one thing it's enabled me to do is meet a variety of people from all over this county, all over this community here, that I never had a chance to meet before. I've met people who live in the lake community, right around the lake. I've met people in the golf community, people who live on the border of the golf community, people who are concerned about what's happening with the pool and that amenity. People who are concerned about the finances. And talking to them, I found out that they all cross unilaterally. They're all just passionate about the area where they live, and they want to see this area viable. They want to see the area reflect better than what it's reflecting right now. They want to see some consistency, transparency, and dignity brought to this community. So I'm hoping that if I'm fortunate enough to be elected to this position, that I'll be able to assist in that. My background has always been as a voice for others. I was a union representative for hundreds, if not thousands, of laborers throughout the country for 30 years. I worked with 5 Fortune 500 companies as far as monitoring their budget line by line, going over I's and E's, making sure those companies were actually functioning in a proper manner, and that's why you go in and audit those facilities. So
Thank you,
based
Tim.
on that, thank you very much.
I have a question. Do you believe the association currently serves the majority of members or just a favored few?
I do believe there's somewhat of an imbalance here, yes. If you ask the question, that's the answer.
Are you concerned about our community's property values if HVLA's assessment keeps increasing a lot while popular amenities are neglected?
Not necessarily. I find in some of the finer communities, the association fees are quite a bit higher than they are here. They're usually based on the need. They can only go up a certain amount each year, but if you want things to vastly improve, and we know the cost of living increases, there's 125 people on staff here, there's always going to have to be adjustment to accommodate that.
How will you resolve the upcoming conflicts between your priorities of the priorities of your personal life and the required work commitment as a director?
If I'm understanding that correctly, I think he's asking if I would have enough time to do that and serve as a board of directors here. That is something that I have to look very careful at based on my own personal life and lifestyle and things of that nature. But I serve on one committee now, I serve on another subcommittee, and so yes, some of my time will have to be arranged, but there's no problem, I have no problem with the time that I will be able to dedicate as a board of directors to this community.
How do you feel the community and association are doing right now? What's going well and what is not?
Well, if I started with what's going on, I could go on and on and on. But and that's easy to do. I mean, it's easy to sit back and be a Monday morning quarterback or something of that nature. I know there's a lot of things that need to be improved. I know some of the challenges that this association has. I think it's been a long period of decline with this association. So a plan to fix it, a strategic plan, is not going to be quick. It's going to take some time. Some of the positive things at the associations, I know when I walk into the admin office, I think they have engaged personnel. I think when I met with the new general manager for, I guess, an hour and 45 minutes. He addressed every concern I had, so I have a lot of faith in the direction that he will be able to take us. And I met with individuals in the, I don't know if he's the director of golf, but Richard Pritchard, that young man right there, I spent 2 hours with him. Gave me a lot of hope and promise for the future of that golf course with his goals and objectives. So I feel very good about it.
At one point, you may have to decide whether to rebuild the community center or rebuild the Greenview restaurant. Which do you think is most important to our community?
Well, that's hard to say because it depends on where your passions lie. I hear a lot of people who are very passionate about the community center, and I hear people who are passionate about the Greenviews. What a board does is actually prioritize that. And I'm only one person, and so out of 7, but you'd have to sit down, look at all the documentation, look at the budget very carefully, see which one is viable, and a decision has to be made on that, on the facts, as which one actually be prioritized over the other.
Do you prefer a rebuild of the Hartman Center or a renovation?
I believe that Hartman Center, that's the restaurant, that area there, after looking at some of the structural challenges that it has, is going to probably have to be rebuilt. The foundation there is very unstable, and that's the basis of everything for a building. So I don't see a way that you could rebuild on top of that without addressing that problem.
As you may know, HVLA is a Boys Cascade community like Lake Wildwood, and we are often compared to that community. Lake Wildwood charges use fees for all their amenities, not just their golf course. According to Article X in our CC&Rs, the association may charge reasonable fees for the use and enjoyment of the golf course and other recreational common facilities, such as, but not limited to, swimming pool, tennis courts. Can't read that. What is your stance on charging use fees for the tennis courts and pool and rather than a small one-time fee for a key or an amenity card?
Well, I've never known an HOA that actually charged use fees for some of those. And I've talked to some HOAs about the challenges here all over the country. That is not one thing that came up. As far as my personal feelings on that, we'd like to not see that happen. But if that's a way of making the community more viable, making these our amenities more, giving them more stability and longevity, then that's something that would have to be looked at.
Are you in favor of addressing the lake sediment problem sooner rather than later? If so, what would you do to ensure this happens within the next year or so?
You know, I was at the budget meeting the other night and I walked away not quite clear on that. I saw there was money being allocated to addressing the situation, but I believe, if I understood it right, that it was being put off for a certain amount of time for that. The challenges right here with all these major buildings, you got the lake, you got the Hartman Center building, you got the big building by the pool, the convention center. That's a lot for one HOA to try to take on and to be trying to address at one time like they are right now. But as far as for the lake, I'd like to see them all turned around shortly, within a year, but I don't think that's actually feasible.
Are you satisfied with the HVL wildfire safety program, or do you think it should be better?
I think it could be tweaked a bit, but I think some of the strides that have been made over the last year with the alarms and things of that nature are right on point. Other than that, there's little small ancillary things that have to be addressed. I think this is probably, at least as far as I understand, the first time in quite some time that has been addressed in such an aggressive manner as far as giving those sirens and things like that up. So I think as a community, we gotta kind of come with some ideas, some other things, weaknesses need to be addressed. As far as that goes, somebody mentioned to me about gates, making sure the gates and an escape route being written up and shown to every resident here, or at least every resident having a file of that, so they know exactly which roads they are to exit the facility.
What is the single most important action for the board to do in 2018?
I think the most important thing that the board needs to focus on is providing some kind of stability and a strong foundation for this HOA to actually build upon. I think that, like I said, I think it's lost its way in a sort of sense. There's a little bit of lack of direction. So some transparency, some attention to detail, and a good foundation to build on for the future. If you're elected, you have 3 years, it's going to take longer than that. So that's why that foundation is important.
If you'd care to give a closing statement?
Yes, I guess if I had a closing statement right now, it would be, again, I would go back to the people of the community here in Hidden Valley Lake, understanding that the empowerment that they have to make a difference. Whether you vote for me or any of the other candidates, the important thing is just for everybody to get out and let their voice be heard through their vote. And if they can be active in the community in any kind of way, to do so. Because for this to change, for us to get on the direction that I think everybody wants, it's going to take everybody in this room, everybody in this community. We all have to get involved if we want to see come into fore what we all desire. And I think that's, we want to see all the communities open, all the amenities open. We want to see the community look a little nicer, a little tighter, a little more like an HOA. That's every homeowner. We all need to be involved if we want to see the success of this HOA.
Thank you. Cruiser number 2.
Hi, my name is Deborah Fontenot, and I'm so glad to be here. Wow, there's so much that brought me here today. I was living my life in a different state. I was an officer in the U.S. Army, and we had orders to deploy. So I have a brother and sister-in-law that live in the community, and they were going to shepherd my children. So that brought me to Hidden Valley Lake. I had visited many times over the years. They have lived here for over 18 years, and I got to know a lot of the people here, the golf course, the pool, the lake. We used all those amenities while I was here. So when I got my orders, I thought, you know, what a great place to raise my children. I actually attended Upper Lake High School, so I've been in Lake County for years when I was younger. So I really wanted to give my children a start here because it's a great community, the county's amazing. So we came, and it was just, it was amazing. My kids played sports in 2011 for Middletown High School, and I had to go and do some training. It was senior night for my daughter, and all of the parents at Middletown stood up for me because I wasn't there. Sorry, I'm not gonna cry. It was amazing, and I think that's really the mold that makes Hidden Valley Lake what it is. It's just incredible. So I have a lot of experience. I've been a business owner. I own my own hospice. I'm a registered nurse. I have a business degree. I've gone to school most of my adult life. I'm still in school working on a double master's, one class at a time, I always tell myself. So I think it's important now, especially with all the decisions that we make, to have a candidate that is able to make good, sound business decisions. I've run hospitals, I've run clinics, I've opened clinics. I worked here in the county. I ran a major health organization. And so I'm really glad to be here. I really think that with my background, my business expertise, I can really help the community. And that's really why I'm here today. I want to give back to the community that gave so much to me and my family when we needed you. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Deborah, what's the single most important action for the board to do in 2018?
I think the single most important thing is to make good business decisions. I think that begins and ends with every decision that the board makes. I'm concerned a little bit by looking at the budgets for years past. When I looked at those with my business lens on, I think that we have opportunities here to improve. Whether it's the restaurant, which is doing really well right now, or the security, which we have an opportunity to maybe rein in a little bit, not really meeting their budget. So I think there's opportunities for us to look at that. I'm sorry, I can't see you.
Thank you. Are you concerned about our community's property values if Hidden Valley Lake Association's assessments keep increasing while popular amenities are neglected?
I do, and I just want to take a minute to talk about that a little bit. I just want us all to think about our cost of living raise that most of us get every year for our job. And the reason why we get that is so that we could live at the same comfortable level that we are now. Everything goes up, whether it's, our association dues, whether it's bread or milk. So with that, I think we just know that every year it may go up just a little bit. But with that money, we have to take care of our structures and all of our amenities that we have, and all of our amenities. It's really, really important. So I am a little bit concerned if that's imbalanced, if we're paying more, but we're not taking care of, we're not good stewards with that money. I think there's opportunity to do both.
Thank you. At one point, you may have to decide whether to rebuild the community center or rebuild the Greenview restaurant. Which one do you think is most important to our community?
I was at the town hall meeting, and I really heard the voices of the parents that said, we need the pool open. It's really important. So I held an event. We did an action planning document that showed how we as community members can be involved in getting that done. The first goal that we made was to open up the pool and rebuild the community center. So I think it's on the top of their list, and I think that's where we should start. We really need to make sure it's open for 2018.
Thank you. Are you in favor of addressing the lake's sediment problem sooner rather than later? If so, what would you do to ensure this happens within the next year or so?
You know, going to the board meetings, listening to the the structures that need to be rebuilt, and the last question that we just talked about was, the increase in our assessment dues and really not rebuilding the buildings. So we know that as far as property values, that's really going to take precedence right now because we have dilapidated buildings that we cannot even go into. So I think what we need to do is get together with the experts, with the committees, with the community, and figure out a good plan of attack. It's really hard for me today to make that decision because I don't have all the information that the board members today have. From the outside looking in, I would guess that we should do that first.
Okay, thank you. Are you satisfied with the Hidden Valley Lake Wildfire Safety Program, or do you think it could be better?
I am sad. So let me just say that the fact that we have a plan is amazing. What this community went through a couple years ago was devastating. I think that with all new plans, there is opportunity to, once we find out that things aren't working, like for example, not everybody can hear the alarms. So we need to make sure that everybody can hear the alarms. And so it's really about, taking the wonderful plan that we have and then adding whatever we need to. The other thing is that there's a community disaster plan. I'm not sure, a county disaster plan. I'm not sure if everybody knows that. I actually got a phone call from a really good friend of mine that is really involved in the county and state planning. I really think that Hidden Valley Lake has an opportunity to really coordinate with them as well and make it even better.
Thank you. As you may know, Hidden Valley Lake is a Boise Cascade community, like Lake Wildwood, and they do charge for their amenities, not just their golf course. According to Article X in our CC&Rs, the association may charge reasonable fees for the use and enjoyment of the golf course and any other recreational common facility, such as, but not limited to, the swimming pool, the tennis courts, the campground, etc. What is your stance on charging use fees for the tennis courts, pool, rather than a small one-time fee for the key or amenity card?
I would not support that. I would not. I think that what we have right now is better than any homeowners association in Northern California. I think we pay comparably very, very little compared to some of them. In fact, even Sonoma County, they pay over $1,000 a month. So, I mean, I think that it's reasonable and we should just keep it the way it is.
Thank you. How do you feel about the community and association? Are they doing the right thing right now? What's going well and what's going not so well?
I think Hidden Valley's great. I mean, I do. There's always opportunities for us to improve. Again, one of the things that I asked for and received was the budgetary numbers, and we call it a profit loss sheet by department. And I got that, and it was for June. So I went through that, and I looked at all of the different departments, whether it's amenities, it's our staff, whether it's our lawyer fees, and I just looked at the whole budget, and are we on target? And we are on target on a couple of different, units, but we have a long way to go.
Thank you. How will you resolve the upcoming conflicts between the priorities of your personal life and the required work commitments as a director?
So financially, I put myself in a really good position that I really don't have to work full-time. And so based on a commitment to Hidden Valley Lake, I would work part-time and really take the hours that I need to work here with the board of directors and meeting with the committees and trying to make the community better, really the 30 hours a week that it entails.
Do you believe the association currently serves the majority of members or just a few favored?
I believe that Hidden Valley Lake serves all of the members. I think that with the well-versed amenities that we have, whether it's the lake or the pool or the equestrian center or the golf course, the tennis courts, I think it serves a lot of variety that people may want to do. So I think it serves everybody.
Thank you. And this is the last question. And you touched on this before, but this is more of a direct question. Do you think property values here will decrease as the annual assessments increase, but the quality of the amenities gets worse?
Can you repeat that one more time? Sorry, I didn't fly.
Sure. Do you think property values here will decrease as the annual assessments increase, but the quality of the amenities gets worse?
So I think that, again, it starts and stops with the board of directors, the committees, the community. I mean, so we know that we have been poor stewards of the buildings that we have today. That's why we're in the position that we're in today. I think that we together have to figure out with the board of directors how we can pay for everything that we need to take care of today. I really believe that that transparency is the only way to do that. One of the things that all of us ask is, well, what are you doing about it? There's a problem. Do we know what's going on with the pool? We don't know what's going on with the pool. Where are we? Have we hired the contractor? Have we talked to the county? Like, where are we with it? I mean, I hear this all the time. And the fact of the matter is, there's no document that tells us where it is. So I really think that we need that to help us figure out where we are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. If you could do your closing statement, that would be great.
Thank you. And I have 3 minutes, is that right? Thank you very much for having me. I want you to know that I will work really hard for Hidden Valley Lake. I've been a part of this community since 2011. I grew up in Lake County. We have so much good in this community. And can we do better? Yes. But the foundation that we have today is good. I think that we've made some decisions along the way that has maybe inhibited us from growing in a way that we should have grown, taking care of our buildings, making sure that we are good stewards with our money. But I think one of the reasons why I'm here today is because I do have a good business background. And if we choose good people for the board that have business backgrounds, I think that they will, and if I'm elected, I will help to really increase the value of all of your property. But you know, the bottom line is, we are a community that unfortunately, once in a while, isn't on the same page. And to me, that's kind of sad. And we've gone through tragedy together. We've gone through, managers that maybe had opportunities that we could have done better. And so here we are today. But the one thing that we have is our sense of community, and I think that we need to enrich that. You know, the ice cream social was great. It brought everybody out there, everybody was talking to each other. But you know as well as I do, some of the people that we loved are not at Hidden Valley anymore. And so our sense of community is not what it used to be before the fire. And so we have great new families that have moved in, but we don't really know them. So I think that as the board of directors, and as the administration here at Hidden Valley Lake, we should do more things like ice cream socials. We should bring people out. We should really have these conversations that right now we're not having. It seems like people are in silos a little bit. Let's bring them out. Let's have, you know, street parties and meet everybody. I think that's where we're going to heal. Because unfortunately, I think we're not to that point where we're really healing. And I guess because I'm a nurse, I really feel like, you know, everybody should have that sense of community. And not everybody feels that way. And there is sort of a divide. And you know what? We can do it together. We can come together and just do it together. And so I'm counting on Hidden Valley Lake, and I'd really like to serve as your board of director to kind of help that.
Thank you. Sherry?
I know you can't see it. Does anyone know the most dangerous phrase in the English language? Anybody? Most dangerous phrase?
I do.
We've always done it this way. That's the most dangerous phrase. We've always done it this way. My name is Sherry Cobb, and I'm a believer in change, especially if your community's changing. Hidden Valley Lake started as a community for 55 and older, and it is no longer that. How do I know that? Because once upon a short time ago, I moved here. I was 1 week post-surgery. I drove 23 hours. I arrived here with 8 children, 2 dogs, and it was 115 degrees out. And all my kids just lined up and looked at me and said, what do we do now? Where do we go? Where's the fun? Where's the kids? What's happening here? And all I wanted was a lounge chair by the pool where my kids could play and I could rest and recover. And what I got was a very sweet lady in the office who told me, I'm sorry, Mrs. Cobb, there is no pool this summer, there is no community center, and there is no teen center. And I still had 8 children looking at me. Excuse me? So I started asking questions like many of you have asked questions. I started saying, where are my assessments going? What's happening around here? Why are buildings not open? Why are pools not open? Where are the children going? So I decided to do my own personal investigation. And it went like this. Every time I saw someone, I asked them. And I said, hey, we're new here. Tell me about the community. Tell me about the amenities. Tell me, what do you guys do around here? Why is everything closing? I got this from, my husband and I have been married almost 20 years. And before we got married, we interviewed married couples. And we would take them out to dinner. They've been married a year. They've been married 6 months. They've been married 40 years. And we would say, tell us about marriage. Tell us the good things, the bad things, the ugly things. Just tell us everything. And they told us everything. And I thought, you know what? I can investigate just like that. And so I started asking people, what's the good, the bad, and the ugly about Hidden Valley Lake? And everybody wanted to share. Nobody was without words. So asking and listening, that was the important part. I listened a lot, and it taught me a lot about what people here are passionate about. So I learned what your wants are, I learned what your needs are, and I learned what your desires are. So now I feel like I have a personal responsibility to share this information. Because knowledge that does not result in action is simply information, and it's just sitting there, but it needs to be shared. I hope to sit on the board of directors to bring action to your ideas, what the community wants. It's not just something that I want. I think as a board of director, I'm here to represent you. Not everybody can serve on the board of directors. You work, you're in Sonoma County, you're traveling, you have small children, you can't be at all the meetings, you can't do all those things. So I represent what you want. That's what my hope is. And your vote will allow me to do so. So that is my hope for the board of directors, and I'm ready for questions.
Thank you, Sherry. What is the single most important action for the board to do in 2018?
I think we need to meet our budget. I think we need to do it without being in debt. I think we need to unify as a community. I know you said the single most important thing, but I think all those are important. I think we need to have our pool open and our community center rebuilt and have fully functioning amenities. Thank you.
Are you concerned about our community's property values if Hidden Valley Lake assessments keep increasing while popular amenities are neglected?
I think there's several things in that question that are important. First of all, I think that property values will, notoriously they rise. Property value rises. Property is something, if you hold on to it long enough, it will ultimately rise. But I think it has to do with the diminishing amenities there, and it's kind of a two-part question because I think what needs to happen is we really need to survey the new demographics of the community because I've interviewed real estate agents and they're telling me that over the last, whatever it is, 6 months, a year or whatever, people are not moving here because of the amenities. They're moving here because they can't afford to live in Sonoma County where they work, but they live here. So they're not necessarily coming for the amenities. So our property value will continue to increase, but it's irresponsible of us not to have amenities that are said they're going to be there and not taking care of them. That's just neglect on our part, and that just can't happen anymore.
Do you believe the association currently serves the majority of members or just a favored few?
I think it is in the favor of a few, and I think the problem with that is a few vote while others don't. I've talked to a lot of people that say they feel it's always been like that, nothing I say matters, it can't change. And I'm here to say you need to vote because it can change, because the people are the voting ones are the few that are being represented.
Thank you. Are you satisfied with the Hidden Valley Lake Wildfire Safety Program, or do you think it could be better?
I think we're better than where we were, but we can always be better. So I know we didn't hear the alarms at my house when they went off. And I also know that there are senior citizens here that are bedridden and would need their own plan of action in case of an emergency. I think that's something that needs to be tackled. So I think there's always room for improvement, but I would say we're in the right direction. But I know it's something that we're working towards. So I think we'll all work together towards it, and I think we're heading the right way.
Thank you. Do you think property values here will decrease as the annual assessments increase, but the quality of the amenities gets worse?
I think I answered that one. That wasn't the one I answered.
No?
I can answer it again. It was
No, well, yeah, sorry. It's the same type of question, but it was written by a different person, so.
okay. You want me to answer it again?
We can get rid of it if you
Okay.
like. So this one is a candidate question. As you may know, Hidden Valley Lake is a Boise Cascade community, such as Lake Wildwood, and we're compared to that community often. They charge use fees for all their amenities, not just their golf course. According to Article X in our CCNRs, the association may charge reasonable fees for the use and enjoyment of the golf course and any other recreational common facility, such as, but not limited to, the swimming pool, tennis courts, campground, etc. What is your stance on charging use fees for the tennis courts and pool rather than a small one-time fee for a key or amenity card?
Okay, I have a different outlook on this. I would prefer we did not charge for those things, but what I'm seeing now is I'm seeing people at our lake, for example, that don't live here, and I don't know exactly how they get in, other than some have told me they had a friend on the guest list 6 years ago, and they're still coming in. So I think if we are focusing on maintaining our property values and getting things tightened up around here, it's not a bad idea. I don't know if it's my favorite idea, but I do think things need to happen with amenity usage and guest lists that need to be redone to make things a little nicer around here.
Thank you. Are you in favor of addressing the lake's sediment problem sooner rather than later? If so, what would you do to ensure this happens within the next year or so?
I say sooner. I don't think it's fair to the people that have lake property to not have lake on their property. So they overlook sediment now, and so I don't think that's fair. I think it's something that if you ask me, do you vote, let's take care of lake sediment, I would say yes, I would vote that way, but I think there's more to it than that. I think a lot of times, a lot of people are talking and we have 10% of the information while the board has 100% of the information. There's other details like the fact that we need the sediment trap, which is outside of our control. Once the sediment trap gets in, then things won't be flowing back down to where they were. Does it pay to have sediment removed before we have a sediment trap? Probably not. So that would be a waste of money. So I think it needs to happen sooner, but there's a bigger picture there.
Thank you. How will you resolve the upcoming conflicts between the priorities of your personal life and the required work commitments as a director?
Well, that question I know was written for me personally, because I have 8 children. And I could let you know that it requires sacrifice, and I'm willing to make the sacrifice. My husband supports me, my family supports me. This isn't our first go around at something like this, so we know the drill.
Thank you. At one point, you may have to decide whether to rebuild the community center or rebuild the Greenview restaurant. Which one do you think is most important to our community?
I think that they both need to be rebuilt. I think priorities come in here. I would say community center needs to happen first, but not that the restaurant doesn't need to happen. It just doesn't need to happen as soon as the community center, which is not usable right now.
Okay, thank you. And last question, how do you feel the community and association are doing right now? What's going well and what's not going so well?
Well, I think we have a new general manager, and that's good. I think a lot of our problems have been a lack of consistency, a lack of stability, and I think as our general manager fills the shoes of what needs to happen, he's got a lot of cleanup to do, and I think that that will build some safety and security in the people here, and I think we're headed in the right direction. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. I don't even know if half the things that we want done can happen in a 3-year term that I want to serve on the board. I think we're setting the foundation, and that takes a long time. I mean, when you build a house, you need to put the foundation first. You don't just go there and throw up the door and the roof. I mean, you need the foundation first, and it seems like we have baggage from before. We need to clear the baggage out and set a firm foundation so we don't have these problems again.
Okay, thank you. Ready for your closing statement?
Yes, ma'am. So here are some things that I want to leave you to think about. I've been married for 18 years, so I understand commitment. I hold a bachelor's degree in elementary education. I know how to work with parents, teachers, staff, and children, and I'm a team player. I've worked with children, soldiers of war in West Africa. Doing hard things doesn't cause me to run in the opposite direction. I've worked as an administrative assistant for a megachurch serving 15,000 people weekly. I understand the importance of fine details. I was a foster parent. I understand patience. I was a cross-country running coach and an elementary basketball coach. I know strong foundations are vital. I co-authored a young adult novel. I understand going at something again and again until you get it right. I own several of my own businesses. I understand hard work. I worked as a caregiver for seniors with disabilities and dementia. I understand and live by the philosophy, if you see a need, meet that need. As you're hearing from my background, I'm well versed in a lot of different areas in life. But just because you know something doesn't mean you grow, but I have grown, and I'm willing to engage. I'm willing to take what I've seen and heard and be an influence for change in this community. As a Board of Directors member, I believe it is my assignment to discover, understand, and remain on top of all that's happening in this community. It will be my duty to serve with intention and focus. Here are my goals as a director for the board. I will work to protect our people and properties. I'll work to preserve our amenities. I'll work to enhance our community. And what does this mean to you? That's really what it's all about, right? Safety always comes first. It's not okay to push off until tomorrow what needs to be done today. I don't believe in debt. I don't do debt in my personal life, and I wouldn't do it with your money either. So, let's move forward together. And finally, if you want to talk to me anymore, I'll be at the mailboxes tomorrow on Spruce Grove from 1 to 3:30, and I'll be back here on Saturday. So thanks for coming out tonight, and I appreciate your vote.
Sherry? You want to stand?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry. Welcome, Diane.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of you know me already. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I am currently on the board of directors. I have and will continue to be a very active and involved community member. I have lived in Hidden Valley Lake almost 6 years. I own 2 homes here and even encourage my oldest son to buy a home here as well. I would never put my son at financial risk if I did not think Hidden Valley Lake was going to have a very successful future. I've come to love living here and have made many friends that I care deeply about, and I see a few of you in the audience. It would be an honor to represent them and the rest of the community going forward. I am not on social media as it is against board policy, so you don't see very much about me unless you go to the open board meetings. So at this point, I would like to share a little more about myself, as you may not see as much information about me as you see regarding the other candidates. In terms of community involvement, I was chairman of the Food and Beverage Committee for almost 2 years. At present, I am the board liaison to the Food and Beverage Committee. I am also on the committee for Toads for Teens, a charitable group in HVL, and last year I was on the fundraising donation committee. It's a wonderful organization. Thank you, Sherry. I have also been the VP of the Hidden Valley Ladies Club, and I use ladies loosely for that club. It has 70 members. I pick the venues and coordinate the events. I have basically attended almost every board meeting in the last couple of years, and I attend many different committees. My education, I have a master's in counseling psychology and an undergraduate degrees in social human services and behavioral science. In that capacity and others, I really value communication on every level. I held a real estate license for 20 years, and I know the importance of maintaining our property values. I have property management and business skills. This may answer a few of the questions that are going to come. As a member of the board, we just finished the 2018 budget. The restroom and showers should be in by May 1st, therefore allowing the pool to be open to the membership, and I expect the pool season to open longer this next year. The board will be placing emphasis in the next couple of years on the rebuild of the community center, Hartman building, the lake sediment removal, and the maintenance building. This will take a great deal of work, obviously. Important decisions will need to be made. Strategic plan will be implemented to bring this all to fruition. Other community concerns and goals already in place, ongoing needs will be addressed as well. We are aware of all of your concerns. Community input is a big part of these plans. We will absolutely adhere to a firm budget or we will be in deep trouble. As board members, we are responsible for the maintenance, repair, and rebuilding, etc., and particularly the preservation of all our amenities and common facilities. I hope on my watch that this takes place, and I will do everything possible to do that. I will work my hardest and smartest for you. Serving on the board is a very serious commitment. I've never missed a committee meeting in 2 years. I have attended every board meeting and will continue to do so. I am dedicated to whatever endeavor I take on. Along with my educational background, community, and work experience, I believe what I bring to the board is a strong work ethic, critical thinking, honesty, integrity, compassion, and kindness. My core values dictate my role. I am my own person, and I vote my conscience. I am excited and enthusiastic. Oh, I'm going to cry. and I tend to do that, as people that know me. I am excited and enthusiastic to continue with this board, which I believe will bring about progress we have all been waiting for and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Diane, how do you feel the community and association are doing right now? What's going well and what's going not so well?
I believe, of course, it's been a struggle for the last few years. I'm new to the board. I am very pleased with our new GM. I think he's doing a fantastic job, and we are very lucky to have him. Our treasurer, Steve Earhart, is also doing a great job. I don't think Kim is here today, but Kim Smith. Everybody has been working so many hours. You can't believe it. So many finance meetings, emergency meetings, etc. So, is that it? Okay.
Okay.
Did I answer that? Did I forget?
It's up to you.
Did I forget something?
Are you in favor of addressing the lake's sediment problem sooner rather than later? If so, what would you do to ensure this happens within the next year or so?
Let me have a, the board is moving forward on this. Of course, it's very important to everyone. We have had, in the recent history, about 3 different paths to removal, which have been considered over time based on input from consultants, studies, etc. At this point, I believe someone on the committee has suggested hydraulic dredging, and that seems to be the path that looks the most promising. This would consist of a barge on the lake with a pump to move it out. Soils analysis, just recent studies show that the soil is clean and non-toxic, which is very, very important. We are actively pursuing Caltrans, their participation, and hopefully some financial help in accomplishing this. There are a lot of moving parts. I fully support the sediment removal and the need to mitigate new sediment from moving in. Since I have been on the board, I have and will continue to support everything presented to the board for the lake sediment removal.
Thank you. Thank you. At one point, you may have to decide whether to rebuild the community center or rebuild the Greenview restaurant. Which do you think is most important to our community?
I think they're both important. I don't think we've totally decided what, but we do have rather a plan in place, or considering a plan. It could go either way. I hope both of them will be very soon. I think one will probably be scheduled for the beginning of 2019 and the other one towards the end of 2019. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. How will you resolve the upcoming conflicts between the priorities of your personal life and the required work commitments as a director?
That's pretty easy. I don't have a big personal life. Sorry. I'm okay. I can spend hours and hours.
Okay, thank you. As you may know, Hidden Valley Lake is a Boise Cascade community, like Lake Wildwood. We're often compared to that community. How do you, according to Article X in our CC&Rs, the association may charge reasonable fees for the use and enjoyment of the golf course and other recreational common facilities. What's your stance on charging use fees for the tennis courts and pool rather than a small one-time fee for a key or amenity card?
I would prefer the one-time small fee for a card. I don't think we should be charged anymore for our amenities.
Okay, thank you. Are you satisfied with the Hidden Valley Lake Wildfire Safety Program, or do you think it could be better?
I think it could be better, and actually we just went over the 2018 goals for our GM, and that is actually one of the very specific goals we are dealing with. And we would like just one. I don't want to say all the goals because I guess they want to roll them out. But one of my questions was in terms of security, that we really need to enhance that and get something very specific when it happens, that what we know what to expect from our security. So, and other things that apply to that.
Okay, thank you. What is the single most important action for the board to do in 2018?
Begin the amenities. I don't think there's another alternative. We've been all waiting a long time. I think people are angry, and I think we need to get them started and plans done and strategic plans done and get that taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Are you concerned about our community's property values if Hidden Valley Lake's assessments keep increasing while popular amenities are neglected?
I'm hoping those popular amenities will not be neglected, because that is our plan. Of course, if they were neglected, yes, it would definitely impact our property values. Yeah.
Okay, Thank you. Do you believe the association currently serves the majority of members or just a few?
I think we have a ways to go. I know there's many that have concerns out there for particular reasons, and that we need to address that. But we also serve in a lot of people as well that I think are happy here and like what we're doing. But that is not to dismiss people that have concerns and issues. So.
Okay, thank you. And now we're ready for your closing statement.
I'm kind of spent here. I actually didn't come with a closing statement. I hope that I have let you know that I will work hard on this board and have worked hard and put in many hours. I have no problem with that. I want the very best for this community. When I mentioned my son lived here, I thought about that, and you all probably have children. I'd probably do more for my kid than I would for me to make sure that it's okay. As a board member, I want to protect our property values. I want to protect our amenities, our CCNRs. Just work my hardest.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes the formal part of our candidate forum, and now begins the informal part where everyone mingles and asks questions of the candidates. Thank you very much.